Hi there everyone, this section will be about the details page for each listing, which is the place where most of the functionalities of the application are actually written. So we will specify how a listing is displayed when we click on it, and we will also write some pieces of logic about the display when specific users see the listing. So firstly, we need to uncomment the details method here in our controller. Let me comment the text here. And I'm gonna actually remove a few pieces that we don't need. Okay, so all we need to do here is to make this method here that accesses the database. We'll need to make a method in the service. So here we will write the signature firstly, which will be an asynchronous method. It will return a listing, and we usually name it GetById. And it will take an int ID as a parameter. So let me just go now to the listing service and implement this, what we wrote in the interface. I'm just going to need to write the async keyword. Basically, the logic here will be the same as what we have here. So I'm just copying this firstly. And I'm just pasting it here. Here I'm going to also add, I will also include the comments, and after that I will also include the bids when we take a listing from the context. And after including bids, I'm actually gonna need for later use to then include the users of that bid, which I make with this then include method here. And of course, after this, I'm just going to need to return this listing variable here. That's all we need to do in our case here. We just now need to remove this here and use the method that we just created. Just so ListingsService.getById, and it takes the ID above. So just as a reminder, we do these methods in the service so that we don't access the database directly from our controller. That's the reason why we write these services and then we import them in the controllers. We've talked about it even before, but just as a quick reminder. Now let me just go to the details page where I'm basically just gonna remove all of this. And here's the part where you play with the display of stuff. So here we'll just import the Microsoft identity to be able to access the users. Here I'm going to inject to the view page the user manager, which takes an identity user. I'll name it just user manager. I'm just gonna remove that. Here in the beginning I'm gonna make an if clause here. So if the user, that identity that is authenticated, so this basically just says that if the user is authenticated, is logged in, we'll make some specifications in the display. And here, what I'm basically doing is just, okay, if the model is sold, so if model.sold is true, we will display a title in the listing. So depending from the status of the listing, so who is the winner, or if the winner, if the user is the winner, we'll display it as you are the winner. So first we need to loop through each bid in model.bids. So here, basically, if the bid.price is equal to the model.price, so for the user who, if the bid.price is equal to model.price, then the user has had the highest bid. And here we specify if the bid.user ID is equal to the logged in user, the current logged in user, which we get with this user manager.getUserID. Basically, this is what this does. We will have a header here that says, congratulations, you are the winner. So for this to be displayed, the user has to be logged in, the listing has to be sold, and also the user's bid has to have the highest price from all of the bids. And if not, else if, here we'll specify, we will see if the logged in user is actually the person who made the listing. So if the currently logged in user is the model.identity.user.id, so if the user has created the listing itself, it will tell the user the name of the person who won the bidding. And if none of this is correct or is for the case, then we will just display to a random user who opens the listing, and if the listing is closed, he will see just that the bidding is closed, so he won't see who won it. Or if he is not the winner, he won't see any additional information, so he won't see who won it, or of course he won't see that he won it. So until now we just made this functionality to display a title in the listing, on top of the listing, depending on who won it or if the bidding is closed. Now we're just gonna need to play around with the display of the page of the listing. So I'm having a header here, and I'm putting the text align to center it. And here we'll have the title of the model of the listing. Here I'm gonna need the container div, a div of class container. I'm giving the styling, I'm giving a background color, which is just the color I saw before. I just marked the values. I'm just writing it here for the color that I wanted. So I'll give this div a bit of margins on top, like 50 pixels. And basically the same margin on the bottom as well. Just some paddings. And I will put some border radius there to be so the borders will have like corners on the edges. So inside this div class container, we're going to need to copy some things from the index page, because some parts here will be like the same, have some same structure. So I copied that part from the index view page and I'm pasting it here, but I need to adjust it a bit. So here I'll make the width to 100% of the width of the image and the height to 60 view height, which is the 60% of the screen basically. And here we don't take it from listing.image path but from model.image path. Okay, that listing title we don't need there because we have it on the top. Here I'm just gonna write at model.description. And this I will actually delete. And here I will specify some conditions to how the following will be displayed. So if the user is authenticated, we'll make it possible for him to put a bid there, to bid something, but if not, then not. So here I will make a form, ASP action, which we haven't created this method yet in the controller, but I will just write it here, we'll create later. The method will be a post method. And here where the bid will be displayed, we'll make an input there. So the type of it will be number, so it takes only numbers. The minimum value of it will be the model.price, so you cannot bid on lower than the model.price. And this step equals 1 just means that there's like an option there so with the errors to increase it with 1 or to decrease it with 1, the price. And the name equals price. We need this so we can, when the form will be submitted. And in the placeholder, we actually just store the model.price. .toString, and here specify n2, which just basically will write the number with 2 numbers after the comma, so with 2 places after the comma. Okay, we just need one single input tag there. So together with the first input, when a bid will be submitted, it should take, because the bid object takes a user, takes a listing, so that's why we will write here this input of type hidden with the name of identity user ID and the class of form control. So this will take the currently logged in user that submits the bid, and the value that it takes will take it from the user manager that get user ID of the currently logged in user. So yeah, I forgot this slash there, and just it's basically the same thing to get the listing ID as well. So it will be hidden. For the name here, we'll specify actually the name of the property, which is listing ID, so that we need when the form will be submitted. And here the value of it will be just like at model.id. Here in the end, we just need an input of type submit, just class of form control. Class of button and button primary to be like a blue button. We only needed one single input tag there as well. And this was it for the add bid form. And below there we can display the number of bids submitted in a paragraph, and how we'll take it is we'll write here model.bids .count, which is the method that takes the number of bids that our model has. I'm just making here this just like a line to separate it from the next thing. And here we will specify, so if we'll take the currently logged in user, and if the user is actually the person who created the bid, he will be able to see the name of the people who have submitted bids. So if user manager.getUserID equals to the model.user.id, he will be able to see, we'll list here all of the names of the people who submitted a bid and how much they submitted. So only the owner or the creator of the listing will be able to see this for each. So we'll take for each bid in model.bids. So we'll write here an unordered list of, just specify the styling here to list style type to none, not to have all of this default list stylings. Here we'll take bid.user username, so the username of the user who has submitted a bid, and we'll write here bidded, and the price, the amount of the bid, so add bid.price. That toString parentheses and to, so it will be formatted a bit, the price. Yeah, so that was it firstly for this part. So if the user is actually not logged in now, he won't be able to submit anything. So here I just need a div, and here I will just make an input which will set it to disabled, so you cannot input anything there. And yeah, we won't do it inside the forms because it won't take anything, the input. I'm just copying this here. So here in the input of type submit, we make it disabled, so you cannot click on the button, on the submit button. So we'll also right here, if the user is not logged in, he will be able to see also the number of bids submitted for that listing. And here down below, to be able to see by all, we'll just write the name of the person who listed the listing. So module.user.username. Then just copy this here. We'll need to use it again. So yeah, I just copied that part of code from above, so I will just so this functionality will be just for the owner of the listing, the person who listed it. It will make it so the person who listed the listing will be able to have this anchor link here to be able to close the bidding, which is the method that we'll create later, this close bidding method. And it will take in the ASP route ID the model.id. Just naming it close bidding. And we actually want to make it so this person can only close the bidding once the model that is sold equals to false. So if a person actually closes the bidding, the model will be that is sold will be true. So he cannot. The idea is that he cannot close the bidding even after the bidding was already closed, and that after the model was sold, so after the listing was sold, he cannot close the bidding then, because it doesn't make sense. Here, I'm just going to write another of these lines to separate the sections. And here we're going to handle the comments actually. So if the user is authenticated, so if a user is logged in, he will be able to add a comment to the listing. So just making it, we need the container div here. And a form which will redirect us to a method that we'll also create later to add comments, naming it add comment. The method will be post. And I'm gonna have an H6 header. You can add a comment. We'll store the comment, so the input will be a text area actually. So it's a bit bigger. I'm giving it a class of form control for the styling. And this area label with text area. And the name of this text area we'll put it to content so that we can connect it to when we'll create later the comment as an object. And in the styling, we'll put the width to 40%. And the vertical align to top, so it will be placed on top, on the upper part. Here we'll also need some input of type hidden to have the user that made the comment, and also to have the listing, which we can copy from here, because so that we can create a comment as an object, we need these two properties, so to say, because a comment is always associated to a user and to a listing. And that's how we can add a comment. Just making the styling of this button so the display of it, just making it an inline block. And yes, some margins to it. So in this else condition here, else clause will just specify how it would look like when the user is not authenticated and when the user cannot add a comment. So I'm just copying this here. Just removing the form. And these hidden inputs we won't need actually. And just we'll make the input here to disabled, so we cannot click it, just the same as we did when we added a bid. The only thing left now is here just to display a way to display a list of all the comments. So this was the form above, how to add when we add a comment. Now we just need to display the comments, just a line there to separate this. And I'm just having another container div just for the styling, for a bit of margins by default. And here I just need a header that says comments. And we need the for each loop to loop all of the comments that are made in a listing. So var comment in modal.comments. And here in a div, which we can make some styling to it as well. Just we'll give it a border. We'll make the border visible, so it will be 1 pixel thick, solid and light gray as a color. We'll set the margins to 10 pixels and some padding as well. 10 pixels should be enough. And we'll just make the border radius. We'll give it a border radius, so on the edges it will be like rounded. Give it a width of 40%. And yes, you can play around with the CSS styling actually. Yeah, just what I was thinking how to do it. And inside here, in a paragraph, inside paragraph tags, we can input the comment.content, and we can just make it so that we also see who posted the comment, like the username. So add comment.username. And I guess this was it. This should be it. If we don't have any errors. So now if we click on the title here, it should link us to the details page. And this is how it looks like. So yeah, we can submit something there, but it won't work because we haven't made the add bid or add comment method yet, but this is how they would look like, which looks good to me. That's how they are displayed. So here's the comment section. And here are the main information about the listing. Just until now, no bids are submitted. And if we're going to try to log out to see how someone who is not logged in sees this, just go to listing index, or this details one, and this is how. So this submit button is now not clickable, and this comment button is not clickable, but the other things, the persons that are not logged, the people that are not logged in can see clearly, can see okay. And that was it for this section. We handled the details page for our listings. In the next video, we will take care of the CSS and the structure of the pages a bit, but then we'll keep on going with the remaining functionalities of our application.